those of you that may not know what the 19th Amendment is, the 19th Amendment was basically, it was passed that says that you can't discriminate somebody based off of sex. Okay, and that's what it says, based off of sex. Now, the thing is, according to modern times, sex is not what you know it. Okay? And so, with the way that it goes, that has now changed. And the reason why that has changed is now you have lots and lots of people going over and saying, I can't identify what a man or a woman is anymore. So here's the thing: when that's going to be the case, that's a problem. That is really a problem. And let me show you.
Can you provide a definition for the word woman?
Can I provide a definition?
Mm-hmm.
No,
Yeah.
I can't.
You can't?
Not in
Okay.
this context.
So you
I'm not a
believe
biologist.
the meaning of the word woman is so unclear and controversial that you can't give me a definition?
Senator, in my work as a judge, what I do is I address disputes. If there's a dispute about a definition, people make arguments, and I look at the
All right.
law and I decide. So I'm not.
The fact that you can't give me a straight answer about something as fundamental as what a woman is underscores the dangers of the kind of progressive education that we are hearing about.
The reason why I have that, and that's courtesy of USA
Hey,
Today.
thanks for watching.
God,
If you
I
like this
didn't know
video,
that was there. Okay. So the reason why this is a problem, and people said, oh, this isn't a problem. Really, because there is multiple things that will go before the Supreme Court of the United States of America that involves equal rights, that will involve gender and sex equality. And if you cannot and are not willing to make an identification on what that is, then how can you rule on the application of whether or not somebody's rights have been violated? So based on the 19th Amendment, which says that we will not discriminate based on, if you cannot identify what that base is, then it's null and void. If that's the position of the court, that there is no definition of what they are, then there's no point in having women's rights protections, which means that women then very well can be discriminated against, and they have no legal recourse to say that they were, because you have now progressive judges that are coming up that are saying that I will not identify what a woman or a man is. Well, then how do we have protections for equal rights based on that? And that's a problem, because this is a Supreme Court nominee. This isn't your local federal judge. This is Supreme Court, which means that when they rule on an amendment, unless Congress reinstitutes the rule or definition of the rule by congressional vote, their rule is it. You could appeal it, but the rule is it. So if you have them to where they will not identify what women and men are, or what any person is, then how can we have equal rights and equal protections under the law if the judges won't even define that? You have to be able to identify, regardless of, and using the cop-out that I'm not a biologist, I can't identify what a woman is. I seriously, my follow-up question to her is, are you a woman? I would have asked her that. And they would have looked at me and says, how is it that a white male is asking a black woman whether or not she's a woman? Because she said she can't identify what a woman is. So I would ask her, is she a woman? Now, if she would have said yes, I would have said, but you said you can't define what a woman is, but you know that you are, how is it that you know that you are? Okay? And folks, you don't have to be a biologist. And people that says this, well, are you a biologist? Then obviously you don't know. There is a difference between somebody's mindset of what they identify as versus what they actually are. Now, if you're going to be a person that identifies as a gender, then that's one thing. But when the law is prescribed and the law is enforced, it is enforced off of what you actually are based on what your sex actually is. If you are a male or if you are a female. Now, if you transition and you get the full-on medical procedure that transitions you to the other sex, guess what? You are now, by the letter of the law, the other sex. Okay? I just want to understand how the law sees this. So when a judge who's nominated for the Supreme Court is not willing to identify what a sex is, that is a problem. That is a major problem. This isn't a conservative problem. This isn't a liberal problem. This is a problem across the board. Because of doing this, now equal protections under the law based on that are null and void. Because if the judges can't define it, then they cannot enforce it. If I brought a case before her, because she has said this on record, if I brought a case before her, or someone brought a case against me saying I discriminated this person because they're a woman, and we went to this court, I could get this case thrown out now because her word on record is she cannot define that. Therefore, she cannot rule that I discriminated against someone based on that sex because she herself cannot define it. Do you see how that works? I understand we live in a world where people want to identify as a gender that is what they mentally identify as. Okay? Then that's what they want to be. I understand that. But under the letter of the law, that does what you think is what you want to identify in your head does not exist under the letter of the law. So because of this, once again, because of her statement alone, any single person, because she is still a judge right now, any person that goes before her with a case of discrimination based on sex can get it thrown and can get the case against them thrown out simply off of what she said. And that now means that if anybody legitimately has a case where they were legitimately discriminated against, they're now going to lose that case. That is what kind of a statement that is. Zion Bryn, this is what happens when society accepts conflating the difference between sex, sexual preference, gender, and slapping the name identity on it makes it personal so people get emotional. Yes, and once again, like I said, the law, and I don't care what you want to identify it. That's on you. Whatever makes you happy. Okay? You can identify as anything. You can identify as an Apache attack helicopter. By the way, those shirts are for sale at therichwilsonshow.com. You can identify as anything. Okay? But the law is different. The law sees it in discrimination as very simple terms. Race. Whether you're white, black, brown, Asian, it doesn't matter. Okay? If a race, a sexual preference, whether you're gay, straight, lesbian, bisexual, all across the board, okay? Gender or sex, because the law sees gender and sex as the same thing. Now, I know the argument everybody is having, but under sex, it is under the eyes of the law, male and female. There is no other gender or sexes involved under the eyes of the law. Okay? So when you say you're transgender, the law still applies based on what you biologically are. Okay? And so, because of this, now you will lose your ability to fight for rights and protections that are granted to you in the Constitution, because now judges are saying they cannot identify that. And the moment that a judge says that, like right now, for the rest of time, because she is on record stating that, unless she comes out with an official statement changing what she has said, anything that involves discrimination involving sex, boom, she can't rule on it. And in fact, you immediately call for her to be recuse herself from that case due to the fact of her statement of saying she can't define that process. That is what happens when you make these statements on record. It screws you. And that's why you'll get a lot of judges that go before the Supreme Court nominations or federal courts that will not touch these questions because it can affect their decision making. Sometimes they don't answer questions and people get on them and say, well, they didn't answer this question or they didn't answer that question. The reason why is because how they respond to these questions in Congress will come back to affect them in court cases. It will. It's a matter of public and official record. Like I said before, you can say goodbye to equal protections under the law as long as she is hearing a case.
Can you?
That's the wrong button. Sorry, Dave, you hit the wrong one, buddy. And it's unfortunate because these women fought for equal rights. Because they weren't allowed to vote. They were not given the same rights as men. Their word did not mean the same. And they fought for that. Some of them were incarcerated for it. And there was some of them that were even killed for their fighting for that. Women were beaten up in their homes. It was a horrible time. Women were also not given the right to establish unions or be a part of unions. But the 19th Amendment corrected a lot of that. And eventually there was some additional amendments placed in that did additional subsections of the amendment that did allow for that. But now, based on this statement alone, if she makes the Supreme Court and more people like her make the Supreme Court, you can kiss everything that they did goodbye. When it comes, and because she won't identify that, then I would want to ask her, can you identify somebody who is gay? Can you identify somebody who is lesbian? Somebody who is bisexual? Can you identify somebody's this or that or this or that? And my statement would be very, very specific, and here's the reason why. Because all of those rights go out the window. Because if you're on the Supreme Court and somebody decides to challenge this, she can't rule on this because she's on the record stating she can't identify this. You have to be able to, because the way the law is written, if the law changes, then the mindset of the judges can also change to adapt to the change of that law. That's how the law works. It's what's within the letter of the law. It doesn't matter because you can argue the spirit of the law. Okay, you can argue that all day long. But judges, when they make a statement as a person, as the opposing party in a case, and I'll play devil's advocate here, I'm the opposing person in the case, I know that's my judge, I am going to use this statement to get my case thrown out. And the bad part about it is in all actuality, they can't rule on it. And if the judge does make a ruling on this, then I can turn around and go after the judge. I can hold the judge liable for it. And I could sue. And win a lot of money. People don't understand. You can go back and if you prove that they acted completely defunct of their duties, you can go after them, after judges. You can. It's a hard case to prove, and a lot of judges don't rule against other judges, but you can do it. And that's where this goes. That's where this goes.